Imagine waking up one day and finding out that the war you've been fighting for the last 29 years ended before you even got started. No, really, 29 years in a jungle, alone. This is the story of Hiroo Onoda, a Japanese soldier who kept fighting World War II all the way until 1974. And the most insane part? He wasn't crazy, he was just following orders. To understand this story, we need to go back to 1944. World War II is at its peak. Japan is fighting the United States across the Pacific, and things are not going well for Japan. A young soldier named Hiroo Onoda, 22 years old, trained as an intelligence officer in guerrilla warfare, gets sent to a tiny island called Lubang in the Philippines. His orders are simple but brutal. Disrupt the enemy, destroy their airstrip and harbor, and whatever you do, do not surrender, ever. His commanders told him reinforcements would come. They told him to hold out no matter what. And Onoda, being the loyal, disciplined soldier he was, took those words deadly seriously. In August 1945, Japan surrendered. World War II was over. Except nobody told Onoda. Allied planes flew over the island, dropping leaflets that said the war had ended. Onoda read them and thought, propaganda, a trick by the enemy to get him to lower his guard. His family even sent letters begging him to come home. He looked at the photos they included and noticed the buildings in the background didn't match his memories of his hometown, because it had been bombed and rebuilt while he was gone. So he concluded the photos were fake. There were even search parties sent specifically to find him. They left newspapers, food, and personal messages in the jungle. Onoda found them, and still didn't believe it. In his mind, there was no way Japan had surrendered. Japan would never surrender, so all of this had to be a trap. So what did Onoda actually do for 29 years in that jungle? He fought. He wasn't just sitting in a cave waiting. He and his small group of fellow holdout soldiers, there were 4 of them at the start, were actively conducting guerrilla raids, stealing rice from villages, burning crop supplies to signal to Japanese forces they believed were coming, getting into real shootouts with local Filipino police and farmers. One by one, his companions disappeared. One surrendered in 1950. One was killed in a shootout in 1954. The last one was shot by local police in 1972, leaving Onoda completely alone. For the last 2 years, it was just him, one man, in the jungle, still fighting a war that had been over for nearly 3 decades. Now here's where the story gets genuinely wild. In 1974, a young Japanese adventurer named Norio Suzuki decided he was going to travel the world and find 3 things. And I am not making this up. Lieutenant Onoda, a giant panda, and the abominable snowman, in that order. Somehow, within just 4 days of searching Lubang Island, Suzuki found Onoda hiding in the jungle. He sat down with him, told him the war was over, that Japan had rebuilt and was thriving, and begged him to come home. Onoda refused, not because he didn't believe Suzuki, but because he said he would only stand down if he received a direct order from his commanding officer. Those were the rules. That's what a soldier does. So Suzuki went back to Japan and tracked down Onoda's former commander, a man named Major Yoshimi Taniguchi, who by 1974 was living quietly as a bookseller. The Japanese government flew Taniguchi all the way to Lubang Island, and on March 9, 1974, in a jungle clearing, Major Taniguchi stood in front of Onoda and formally read out the order. All combat activity is to cease immediately. Onoda wept. After 29 years, it was over. He walked out of that jungle carrying his rifle, 500 rounds of ammunition, several hand grenades, and a dagger his mother had given him in 1944 to kill himself with if he was ever captured. He had never used it. When Onoda returned to Japan, 8,000 people showed up to welcome him home. He was 52 years old. He had left as a 22-year-old in a country of wooden houses. He came back to skyscrapers, bullet trains, and television. The Japanese government offered him decades of back pay. He turned it down. He wrote a best-selling memoir. He moved to Brazil and became a cattle rancher. He eventually returned to Japan and opened a school for children, teaching them survival skills and the value of life. Hiroo Onoda died in 2014 at the age of 91. Here's the thing that gets me about this story. Onoda wasn't delusional. He wasn't broken. He was one of the most disciplined, loyal, determined humans who ever lived, pointed in the wrong direction by a war that had already ended. 29 years in a jungle, because nobody came back to tell him it was over. If that doesn't make you think, I don't know what will. That's it for today's episode. If you found this as mind-blowing as I did, subscribe.